Good evening, everyone, and also welcome to all the viewers. And I both deeply apologize for not being able to be here yesterday, and but at the same time, I think you are all very fortunate to receive further teachings and blessings from His Eminence 𝐁𝐨𝐝𝐻𝐿. And so, in that way, we are all very lucky that we are able to continue the momentum, we are able to continue the rhythm. And so, then, once again, we are here today. How do I say this? Maybe yesterday's that particular schedule may have been in some ways beneficial to all of us, because then once again we're able to reflect on the nature of life, and then hopefully make some sense of it, and draw something not necessarily positive or negative, but something interesting, something moving, something beneficial, So in that sense, for all of you having participated, I'm very, very grateful. I'm deeply appreciative, and it's now today. It's basically like a continuation, as we all have tried to continue whatever virtue we have committed, and from here onwards, we basically do our very best. So, how fortunate we are that we have such wonderful guide, such wonderful method, that of the Bodhisattva way, or in Sanskrit, Buddhacharya Avatara. One could say literature or composition by Shantideva. Of course, every day we are all trying our very best to do some form of, practice or homework, or however we call it. We're trying to go with the application, of what we say, trying to heal ourselves or benefit ourselves, or spiritually, mentally, and so on. And so, from time to time we may have this doubt in terms of what should be the attitude of these applications. What does it really mean? Because it sounds and looks too abstract in some ways. So am I really doing the right thing? And then especially when there are obstacles arising, challenges rising, do they really, really help or not? So it's very normal for us to have these doubts. And so therefore, to make it really sensible, to make it meaningful, to make it very intimate, personal, we have this particular teaching, because this is the one that somehow bridges the gap, one could say, with our self and with the formal practice. Because otherwise, I'm here, there is a thing called external thing called formal practice, and I'm trying to force these things to, match-make sort of thing. But it's always difficult, and so therefore we feel sometimes maybe feeling torn, maybe. And but of course, have respect that I'm sure these are good things, but no matter how good things they are, how noble they are, it's something to bow to and leave it on the highest level of the shelf, and then that's about it. We pass by that shelf or altar day in, day out, and every time we look at it we feel nice, it's like one of those paintings, or one particular photograph that you have taken from your journey or holiday or something that was really inspiring, and you were lucky enough to find a painter who have captured that, or you had a Kodak camera to capture that, and so now you have framed it, and you're kind of thankful that it's there, captured, and it's on the wall. And so then when you pass by that particular frame, you feel somehow good. It's still there, you know. But does it really do something on a personal level? Maybe not much. I mean, you can stare at that image longer than usual. Nothing really happens. Probably all it does is stir up more emotions. And so, where this particular method comes into play is saying that you have made the acquaintance with the so-called formal practice, you know. You did it. But now you have to make it your own. You have to make it yours, not, you know, something external. And the way to do it is by delving into these very classical emotions. And so therefore it's not a, you know, lecture on moral behavior, how to have proper etiquette, so that we somehow fit the, fit the bill, in terms of being a proper citizen, or more than that, being a proper, a good human being, a good this and that. No, it's not. It's about, maybe trying to remember how you came across that Kodak camera, you know, that, one of those cameras that you use only once, those yellow ones, yeah, or Polaroid, I don't know. It's about becoming intimate with everything, actually. Yeah. The weather of that day when you captured that image, how it was like. What was your mood? What was the shop like? What was the actual smell like? You know, everything. Of course, these are just more a form of example. I'm not really literally saying we have to do all that. It's just an example. So, but basically, what I'm trying to say here is that it's about becoming as vivid as possible, because what we all have, I said in the past few days about nouns and verbs, I have nothing against that, nothing against nouns, wonderful things, wonderful technology that we as human beings can manifest. In terms of usability, is very practical, to have so many names. But at the same time, in this particular case, we have to realize that we could either overuse or misuse whatever wonderful technologies that are existing. And so in this case, the very concept of noun, or the very concept of thinking that I have captured something in the form of painting or memory or position or title or the recognition that we have gained, maybe as a good father or a good mother or a good son or a good daughter or a good sibling or a good friend or a good colleague, all sorts of things. That doesn't mean that we have to let go of whatever good we did and the good feelings from that productivity, It doesn't mean that we have to erase that at all. No. It's just that we have to develop a sincere relationship with all of those nouns or states or captured aspect. Then it becomes more and more wholesome. And so in this case, then now, for example, our formal practice, good, I have received this teaching, this initiation, that initiation, this sadhana, and so on. I have received the lowest of teachings, I have received the highest of teachings, I have received the most simplest of teachings, most sophisticated type of teachings, rustic teachings, organic teachings, But there is always that possibility that we could somehow frame it, and then put it on the shelf. Put it on that shelf of collection. And becomes a memorabilia, and that's about it, Whereas the real me is doing its own thing, digesting, digesting and digesting, and looking for ways to digest more, and talking about how to digest, and so on. And so therefore, although these verses are in some ways it may give us the feeling as if it's exploiting my emotions in some ways, maybe. Or in some ways teasing my emotions, And so therefore I have gone through great therapy to bury all this down, and so now why am I digging it up, So it's nothing like that. So it's nothing about bringing up the past, It's just stating that the human condition is such that you cannot have a human state, a human condition without these emotions, And so therefore, it's not about purifying the emotions with the using of Dorje Sempa or that of the 35 Buddhas practice to sanitize and to remove all those emotions and then have a pure self, It has nothing to do with that. It may look like that, maybe in certain cases maybe we feel a little bit comfortable to think that way, and accordingly then certain teachings may convey it that way, but that's not the absolute or that's not the actual point. And so the human condition is just like that, It's with, the way Buddhism has captured in general, it says that if there is birth or if there is living, I don't know which word is the right way to put it. If there is 𝐿𝐴, that's the Tibetan term. So if there is living or birth, then until until in terms of appearance or experience, if that obvious living aspect is or has disappeared, until that point, then within that frame or within that period, then it's only natural to have all of those variations of emotions rising. It's only normal. Medically speaking, I suppose, from not ready to say Buddhist perspective, but more from the Orient perspective, it is said that the body is that of it's a sort of balance of, one could say, energy, or in Tibetan known as lung, basically that, a vibrating aspect or energy. And then the other is basically what creates heat, we say Tipa, I think, what creates heat. And then the other one, basically what creates an energy of coolness or 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿. I'm not a medical expert, so I'm just guessing, okay? So don't take my word for it, I'm just guessing. So a balance of basically movement, but higher frequency of movement creates more heat, lower frequency of movement compared to the heat is cool. So a balance of those three, creates this, creates this thing called body, speech, mind. Mind is basically very abstract, Speech also. But body probably most vivid of them all. Where we can use various instruments to measure the level of heat and coolness. And that's how we paint also. That's how we capture images also through our mechanical lenses, where we say light and shadow. So, it's a balance of those three. Balance of one thing probably, but in terms of its intensity, a little higher, a little lower. That's it. And so, what we are trying to do here, now I lost the plot after I tried to become a doctor. Where was I before I talked about this? Huh? Sorry? Emotions, yes, thank you. So emotions, what makes us up from the moment of birth until death is somehow the emotions. And so it's not really saying that Buddhism is about trying to just be a good manager, to manage the emotions until that day comes, and then that's it, end of that chapter, But I think first things first, as I said, observation in the very first place is not me. It's the very historical Shakyamuni Buddha who said it, observation. So first thing is first. So since we are a ball of energy or ball of emotion, then first things first, observe and know that this is the case. So now knowing, I said observe a lot, yes. Now one might be thinking exactly how to observe, So for that, then there is one could say there's no other way, or to say that to now somehow find a way to bring the traditional aspect of the teaching to complement this very curiosity of ours, is to say then the three folds of observation. So listening, and then contemplation and meditation. It's through these three. Yeah. So you hear a rumor and our ears go, so something like that. And then now you want to know, so you keep your ears open. And then now you sort of refine what you have heard further, like something like a goldsmith trying to purify the gold by beating it and refining it and reducing as much as possible of the I don't know, whatever residual things that are there, that is in the form of whisper, so that it's not just a rumor, but hopefully more of an information, and from information hopefully more into a knowledge. So it's something like that. So through those three ways, then we can observe better. That's the thing. So it's not like saying going back to school, So therefore we don't have to feel like we are going backwards. We have been, so therefore we don't have to feel that we are being schooled. Instead, it's just a very approachable, practical way of making sure that what we see, what we experience, what we hear is it, Yeah. So then that's there. Ball of emotions, okay. Listening, observation, yes. So emotions. So that's the thing. We don't really have to really manage it. First thing first, we observe it. We use those three tools to observe thoroughly, And then now we see, And now in the later verses, there are, I don't know how many verses are there, 60, 70 verses. They're all very explanatory. Towards somewhere in the end, it basically talks about, what is it? I'm not fast-forwarding. I will go through, of course, the verses, but nevertheless, I'm just trying to, from my point of view, from what I think I know, I'm trying to focus on what I think is a sort of a key element for me, not for you, is that, yes, it's towards the end it begins to talk about how to manage one's own emotions, meaning not really manage, but sort of how to make the most of it, Because these so-called emotions are there, you cannot get rid of it, It's almost as good as we are born with it. Obviously, we are not really born with it. Actually, we just made them into reality. First and foremost, of course, okay, now this is a fine line. We don't go there too far. But in short, one could pretty much say that we have been educated into feeling these emotions, Yeah. And it's not a bad thing at all. I think that's where this physical being becomes a human being, I suppose, When our parents begin to teach that this is right and this is not right, which is probably the most, first and foremost, form of emotions or concepts. And yes, such education can be very destructive, but nevertheless, it's not evil, you know. It's not sinister, you know, in any way. But that's where we become a human, I think, if you can say it that way. Because until then, we are as good as an animal, you know, just being able to say, you know, I hungry, I eat, you know. Yeah, from that animation called Madagascar. You remember there are those types of, I don't know whether they're hyenas or not, there's something called fusa. And they say, fusa hungry, fusa eat. It's, I don't know, it's sort of stuck with me. So it's just sort of there, you know. I mean, I think maybe the idea of Tarzan or Tarzan is probably somewhere there, you know. Yeah. So we've been taught how to differentiate between what is good, what is bad, in terms of what is edible, what is not, and what is a good gesture on an emotional level, and what is not, you know. So like that, then step by step, those informations became more, or those gestures and way of thinking becomes more and more sophisticated. What we call civilized, you know, civilization, or somebody who knows that, citizen, you know. So then, yeah, how can we get rid of emotions, you know? It's just, as it is, the feeling is as good as we are born with it, you know. Actually, we were not really born with it. When we were born, we were just as good as an animal. Simple. But nevertheless, it's there, so we have to know it. We have to observe it. We have to, and then therefore know it. Then once we know it, then now we can see, okay, what can we turn these emotions around, and then see what we can do with it, you know? Or is that a possibility, or is that forbidden, you know? Or is that wrong? Yeah. So, of course, I will continue the verses where we left yesterday. I think it was on the 18th or 17th, but somewhere down there, if you dig deep, somewhere down there, then it talks about basically ego, you know. So I'm just bringing that just as a glimpse, you know. So that's a good example, or great example actually. Because all this while, we felt that it was about trying to conquer one's emotions, and source of all obstacles, source of you know, of confusion, source of how to say, unpleasant state and unpleasant feelings. Yeah. So, and therefore, talking about the ego, then we slowly discover that we can turn these things around, you know. And then the very meditation we do, for example, if that is of four foundations, when we begin, I think somewhere from Vajrasattva or Doje Sempa, And then, actually, it's the so-called ego, the so-called, that aspect is about transforming it, using it, So, through the 3 steps of learning, contemplation, meditation, what do we discover? Slowly, slowly, we discover that, we cannot get rid of it. One very sort of strange way of saying it is, you can only be get rid. It seems to, somehow, in some ways, it seems to be gotten rid of if this present state is, diminished. Of course, such thoughts then leads to suicides and all that. So therefore, the real realization after the observation is to realize that you just cannot get rid of it, not now, not later. As long as that cycle is there, and we don't know for how long this cycle is going to last. We really don't know. We really don't know how long it began, from, and we don't know how long this is going to run for. So therefore, no point in committing suicide. It just repeats again, So therefore, it's kind of futile. So that's why, no choice, but to live. No choice but to live, no choice but to breathe. Nothing. But then again, we could think of maybe someone we know, someone or we don't know, friend, family, who may have also committed such things, out of such confusion. It's very normal, possible. Maybe it is the case, That doesn't mean that, they are doomed, and they are now stuck somewhere. Not here, not there, and something like that. No, that's not the case at all. Very soon after the so-called passing, they are, in short, stuck exactly where we are. Once again, thinking that I'm a human being, I have my rights, I have my freedom of speech, I have rights for this and that, in the form of a squirrel, But a very noble and righteous squirrel, thinking that I have every right for my speech to squeak, I have every right to shove as much peanuts as possible into my cheeks, and so on. So there's no real difference here. But only when we are born as a so-called human being, walking most of the time on 2 legs, the 2 hind legs, That's why it's always a very peculiar imagination when we try to read the praise prayer of Buddha Shakyamuni, or of that of refuge practice. It often defines the Buddha as saying the supreme of all those who walks on 2 hind legs. Anyway, to me it is. And so therefore it's not all doomed at all. a squirrel can live a far more noble life than us, you know. Because in short, animals are not lazy, yeah. Except cats, I think. Otherwise, yeah, they're just, compared to human beings, yes, that's the way to put it. We have to talk about interdependence, yes, because we are Buddhists, you know. And so therefore, accordingly, then yeah, animals are not lazy compared to human beings, yeah. And so in that way, they must be living a far nobler life than us. So nobody is stuck somewhere at all. And so a squirrel, I'm just saying, not as an omen or, you know, or something, or prediction or something, just an example. It could be dolphin, it could be parrot, could be a parakeet, could be mosquito, could be anything, you know, things that we can imagine, things that we cannot imagine. That doesn't mean ghost, okay? Yeah, there are no real ghosts. That's the thing. According to my teacher, Professor Sempadorji, there is no such thing as ghost. He was very clear on that. Yeah. That's just a bedtime story, you know, for children. Yes, it just that name got stuck, you know, the idea of ghost, because we are trying to see what is imaginable and what is not, you know, what is recognizable and what is not. And so therefore there are certain things that we cannot recognize or imagine, you know. So for all that we know, a virus can be a ghost, you know, because we cannot see it with our eyes. Only when we have very special instruments or technologies we can see it. You know. So like that, you know. And so therefore, yeah, there are various forms of human beings everywhere, anywhere. Yeah. It's just that it's not so nice if one is, or it doesn't feel so nice if one is lacking the ability to observe and to make the most of it, you know. Because then yes, then the feeling is like as if we are stuck. So that's the whole point here. To overcome that feeling of being stuck somewhere. So which verse was it yesterday that 18th, yeah, I thought so. So from the 16th, then it says, do not be downcast, but marshal all your powers, make an effort, be the master of yourself, practice the equality of self and other, practice the exchange of self and other. I think I'd explained a bit yesterday on that. Oh, but how could I become enlightened? Don't excuse yourself with such despondency. The Buddha, who declares the truth, has truly spoken and proclaimed that if they bring forth strength or perseverance, even bees and flies and gnats and grubs will gain supreme enlightenment so hard to find. And if by birth and lineage of humankind I'm able to distinguish good from ill and do not leave aside the bodhisattva deeds, why should I not attain the state of Buddhahood? That I must give away my life and limbs, alarms and frightens me, And if you say, your terror is misplaced, confused. You fail to see what's hard and what is easy. For myriads of ages, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cut, impaled, burned, torn for times past numbering. Yet none of this has brought you Buddhahood. The hardships suffered on the path to Buddhahood are limited in their extent and linked to the pain of an incision made to cure the harms of inward ills. Dangbu Shadang Pongwa Jan Tejin Simbro Kanjaba Tejan Tsembe Togene Janju Toka Lamya Dada Riji Mirjela Pendan Nape Ngoshene Napang Ngoshene Janju Chupa Madana Dagi Janju Jimentop Wande Kanan Lasoba Tangudan and Jishena Jishena Chi Tang Yamba Majiba Mombedan and Jigwase Kaba Jeva Tameto Lendan Tumara Jebada Udang Sedan Shenjur Janju Tobar Minjuro Dagi Janju Drubaya, Dungan and Suyed, Sungo Kong and such a Lemante Bedungaji. Of course, though one could pretty much say that maybe it's correct to say that at the moment we are at not to say stage or state, but yeah, it's very simple. We are observing, through listening, as you are listening right now to what I am saying so far, and then you are contemplating on it afterwards, and then I just say you are trying to sort of put those after much filtering. Basically, during contemplation, then we can use logic. You can use what you're learning, of course, these days in the form of using the method of the middle way and that of 𝐁𝐨𝐝𝐴, basically. It was a long mouthful word, so I forget. Something, epistemology, yes, that's it. Thank you. Epistemology. So that's where you can be very creative and have wonderful conversations with your teachers or spiritual friends and get down to the sort of, basically it's like either exercising your mind or using or misusing grammar during that moment. And so that's the fun aspect. It's not really a debate, It's just playing with words. Yeah. It's like saying, in terms of color, color palette. Can you count how many colors are there? Sorry? Many? Yeah. Root colors. You see, that's the beginning of the play, the root colors. Yeah. That's the beginning of the fun. by saying that the root colors are these, and that's how the game begins. Yeah. And so it's a very good exercise to say, if in my palette, if I only have these 3 colors or 4 colors or however many colors, what can I come up with, And so that's how, of course, great artists are there, yeah? I think Van Gogh or a few others. I'm just trying to sound very educated, okay? Actually, I have no recollection of any other artist names. But the moment I say Van Gogh, then everybody thinks, But basically, when you have very limited color, you can come up with all sorts of interesting creations, yeah? So that's how the debate goes, actually, yeah. It's like having very limited palette of grammar, nouns, verbs, and so now you are left with that. You have to defend or you have to attack. You have to consume or you have to be the consumer. And then see how you can sort of, how to say, not really to win, of course. That's just a way to create productivity, of course. But it's not really about winning. It's just about to see how elaborate and how creative we can become. In other words, to see that as long as, as we say, as long as, as long as there's a will, there's a way. That's the English saying, right? So same thing, And so therefore, to see the limitless aspect of the mind, that's the practice of epistemology. And so samba, or the contemplation aspect, is that, yeah. So then you do that, you refine it, you refine it, you refine it, like a goldsmith, you pound it. And once you have that Damascus, or what is that, great steel, yes, that you have found, then no more room for questions, doubts, yeah. Unless your spiritual friend can challenge you, If they can challenge you, that means there is still something more creative. There's more room for creativity. Yeah. So therefore, that's the healthy aspect. I mean, that's what Buddhism is really about, I think, yeah. So it's not like saying, study is it, or education is it, or intellect is it, and meditation is not, or the other way around. No. It's just a very natural, progressive. But somehow meditation comes last. Just a very meaningless joke. So yes, yeah. After much contemplation, then we can focus on the doing aspect, or the meditation aspect. And actually, now that I try to be sophisticated, once again, I lost the train of thoughts. Right before I talked about colors, do you remember what I said? 쐐𝐸 디공 Laos. So, sorry? Huh? Squirrels, yes. It was after squirrels. Don't worry, if you just give me a few moments, it will come back. Copy, paste sort of thing. Well, sorry? Yes, yeah. No, but before that, yeah. So, I'll try to power through. Sorry? Okay. So, diligence, no, that's not the right way to put it. Okay, before I waste any more time, let's just have one question, and then it'll help us, or it'll help me bring back one. It could be out of the many questions from online also, yeah, but of course related to the subject. Yes, you remember the questions, yeah, so therefore, yeah.
Hello. Oh, yes. Regarding, but may I, because the streaming question is not. So His Holiness, about coming back to the subject from the past lectures also, about the laziness and observation. Will you be so kind to share the trick? Because sometimes observation also takes effort. It requires engagement and energy. So what we should do when sometimes we all the time look for excuses, how we should trick ourselves. Maybe you have some recipe to make a kick, or what to do to change the situation.
I think that aspect is in terms of how to motivate ourselves, in short. It's already from the previous chapters and already until the 18th chapter of this, 18th verses of this particular chapter, it's already hinted and pretty much pinpointed, and so therefore I think it's the second chapter of the Bodhisattva, that chapter of purification. That is a very extensive aspect of talking about the nature of samsara, or life in short. Not in a demeaning way, or insulting way, but just stating the facts, And so therefore, observing means actually hardly any effort, actually. Meaning it's just, as I said in the past few days, visiting those memories, that's all there is. It's not really past memory, actually, It's not really like opening a history book, actually. Because sometimes when we go into meditation or therapy or something, sometimes just plain old therapy, mental therapy sessions we go to, the reason why we don't have so much productivity after those so many precious sessions is because we feel like we're visiting we feel like we're visiting the past as if it's etched, sketched, grained somewhere on some hard rock. And then and so therefore we are sort of uncovering some very, some sort of a time capsule, It's not that at all. It's not at all. It's just memory. And memory is actually, it's just now, through comparison, by comparing where I am, who I am, where am I what am I doing, all those things, and then using verbs, you see. Using verbs to state this, I've already done it, I've seen it, So the idea of next step comes, the next step or progress. And then immediately it's very useful to say, okay, this ticked, I've done it. And then that's how the idea of, past tense and all that comes, And so therefore, if there's a language that is based very heavily on past, present, and future tenses, and then if the verbs and the grammar is designed for that more, then it's possible that our emotions can become or feel like as if the so-called, what I was talking about, memory is real. And that memory, that there is a thing called past memory, and there's a possibility for similar memories to come, and so on. And so therefore I'm reading history, Actually, we're not really reading history. We're just reading, first of all, just chapters, then verses or sentences, and like that we can go, and finally just words or consonants, and then from there it's just lines and curves and characters or something like that. And then that's it. Ink, paper. And then we zoom in, we just see that those are just vibrating, and after a certain lifespan they also disappear into thin air. Or, let's say, the memory aspect of it is that then it comes, it goes, that's it. So, therefore, so therefore there is no real harm in visiting memory. Yes, after saying all that gibberish, point is that it's no harm in visiting memory because they are not real, first of all, and they are not locked away in history, somewhere in the past, and we are reopening it and opening a floodgate, or what is the saying, opening a Pandora box or something, It's not like that at all. It's just a series of, it's like a code, it's like encryption or a file. Maybe that's the better way to say it. So a certain combination of codes are put, and that's it. It's not belonging to the past or present or anything. The computer or that artificial intelligence doesn't know anything about that actually. We told them that that's it. That's past. But no, it's just a series of codes, and if the conditions are there, it will appear. If not, it will not appear. Simple. So therefore, there's no real harm in taking therapy or visiting memory, no problem. Especially if you want the therapy to go well, you have to know that it's not really visiting the past, it's just visiting a certain codes of encryption of nouns and verbs, and that's it. And so, if you do that, or if you become more, or if you try a little bit more and more, then the nature of dukkha is how to say, made very close, or it reveals. I think the Tibetan word is ngamba, so it will become clear. It will be unveiled. Yeah. And when you really see it, actually it is not as scary as it seemed, actually. Yes, there might have been amazing tragedies, but it's not just one term or noun called tragedy or problem or enemy or thief or murderer or something like that, or convict or a harmful person or something, It's just, you just cannot lock away. I mean, if you want to explore that memory to the fullest, you cannot just relate to it just by one term. Impossible. You cannot summarize it. Yeah. That's why we say, when we say Buddha, it's foreign, but it's not complete. It relates to everything else. So in this case, visiting the memory means visiting probably one or two nouns, but is it just limited to that? No. It relates to so many things. But that's not saying, we can use that against the court, and get away from justice, of course. That we cannot, yeah. But for mental development or for our emotional development, then that's the way to see it, I think. But then if you see it that way, then there's no real trick, I think, yeah. I think, I mean, individually it may differ, Individually, maybe being in a quiet place is the trick, Or maybe being in the middle of a traffic is the trick, I mean, I see a lot of students going to coffee shops and studying, Normally you would think that just wouldn't work, yeah? But somehow you can turn that whole ambience into a white noise and then sort of cancel out everything, yes? So maybe, there are such tricks, maybe, yeah. Otherwise, according to Shantideva and his peers and predecessors, is that, observation itself is it. But observation itself doesn't require that much effort. Yeah. I think one of the examples is like to develop a very minor yet unhealthy habit. It's not so difficult to develop. Yeah. But it does take a few attempts. So it's the same thing. Yeah. Well, actually, it could have been very difficult, but the mindset was changed. That's the thing. Meaning, the change of mindset was to think that such lifestyle is cool, and such lifestyle is sort of saying. How do you say? I'm not. I mean, some form of anarchy, to say I'm not like everybody else or something. In short, And so probably that's what made it effortless, you know. So maybe that's the trick. Yeah. But otherwise, there are no real particular tricks. It's just all I can do is just basically personally just repeat the definition of effort. Yeah. That is that liking, is that interest, yeah, interest, genuine interest, sincere interest. So therefore you need some good friends, of course, to say, you know, this is the coolest thing ever, you know, I've tried it and it's mind-blowing, you know. And then add more, you know, contemporary adjectives, and then you really feel, if I don't, I will miss out, you know. And so, like that, yeah. So therefore, in your case, yeah, you have to be that cool friend for others, to make it look trendy, you know. So yeah, that's the trick, I think, if there is one. But otherwise, it's just that observation, yeah. And to realize that there is no real solid thing at all, yeah, that is somehow carved into things. Yeah. Because we often feel that way, yes. Because only by thinking that way we feel that I'm here, now I'm going somewhere, and then the idea of wear and tear is there, and then the idea of, since the idea of wear and tear is there, then we have to think about also self-preservation also, you know, and so all that comes. So, yeah, observation itself, and so I suppose maybe for us is, maybe to most of us or some of us, I don't know how to put it, but in short, maybe samsara is too far, you know, the idea of samsara is too far. I think maybe the easiest is to then think about friends, I don't know, or maybe the best friend, yeah. Starting from there. Yeah. Start from there, and then it's a very sort of tangible, how to say, beginning to understanding samsara. Yeah. Because without friends, there is no samsara or nirvana. It sort of begins from there. So they're not absolutely good or bad, it's just, it's so intimate, you know. Because if you talk about a historical person, nice, if you have some interesting stories to add, good, but that's about it. And we can talk about the general humanity, good, you know, but doesn't get us really anywhere. But then of course we can talk directly about me or you know. That's also too much. Yeah. One is too far, one is too much. And so the right in between, where we feel comfortable, where we know the most, is the so-called friends. Yeah. And so therefore, yeah, from there, if we begin to observe, then yeah, we can begin to see many things, you know, in terms of how they influence, how we influence through them, you know, that interaction. Okay, maybe there was a good, in some ways, good in question answer, but somehow the train is still somewhere. Yes, somewhere there, yeah. Yeah, meditation came. That was, I think it was that joke that destroyed my, derailed. Yeah. Okay, I'll just try to just explain the verses, then probably that's the best for everybody. Yeah, so the 19th, yes, of course, it's basically stating that with this human condition, only with this human condition, now that I've said a few things about what is a human condition, yes, that is related to, of course, being born with this particular state is part of it, but it may not be a precious human being. And so one of the plus ingredients, or one of the ingredients of precious human existence is then that of the so-called teacher, in this case biological or non-biological parents, who teaches us what is right, what is wrong, what is edible, what is not. So therefore, now because of all that training, now we are able to distinguish what is good and what is ill or what is not, you know. And so basically now boosting ourselves within these verses by saying that to encourage oneself, to boost oneself, to think that why can't I develop these bodhisattvas practices, qualities? Why not, you know? If you look at the animal realm, from the tiniest, that of, I don't know, starting from okay, since I'm not a scientist and or biologist or anything, so I have every freedom to make mistakes, you know. So starting from the very first cell, you know, the way they strive, whether they are sentient or not sentient, we don't know, okay? But there is a similarity, yes, in terms of striving and moving and striving to live, to get somewhere, to get something done. Basically that effort, or maybe in this case not necessarily joyous effort, but at least doing something, you know, that productivity aspect is there, yes. So unless, excluding cats, house pets, of course, then all are striving towards something, you know. Starting from the white blood cell, let's say, it's striving towards something. And so that's then I think that's how we can then talk about gnats and grubs and bees and flies. Then larger, larger, larger. I mean, that's the smallest we can see so far, yeah. But according to the King of Aspiration prayers, then we can see that actually, how to say, it's infinite, you know. It's just, till now we have acquired only a few instruments to see, you know, physical instruments to see. But the physical instrument can only go so far, yeah. And so that's why when we use the mental instrument, then we can go further, you know, and can see that that there are worlds, not just smallest of insects or smallest of cells, but in fact there are worlds, there are universes beyond comprehension in terms of how large or how small, you know. So we can go that way. So then one can just imagine within one cell how many universes are there, and within that particular universe how many more cells are there, you know, and then go on and on and on. And so therefore, yeah, in short, just as how hardworking they are, then even though they may not necessarily be having or enjoying their effort, you know, maybe it's out of fear, maybe it's out of hunger, maybe it's out of a self-preservation. We don't know. But we can see them, you know. they're not resting, they're not saving their energy. For what? We don't know, We and the cats save a lot of energy, create things like, what is it that called? I've never understood that thing. Daylight saving something, is it? What is it called? Daylight saving, yeah. I can understand closing the curtains if the sun just doesn't go down, But yeah, and so anyway, so if they can, then why can't I, In short, basically, that. In terms of what he's trying to say is that how come that they were, how come Buddhas can appear? How can somebody become a Buddha? Well, the example are exactly this, that's the logic they used, and so therefore then they put effort. But in this case, unlike anything else, where you put so much effort into, retirement, and once you retire, then is this it? So unlike that, whereas that's what is happening to, I guess, everywhere around the world. You work, and you work for retirement. So whereas in this case, it's not like that. Enlightenment is not retirement, And so therefore, you can put effort because it's, well, maybe if I use the word fascinating, maybe it will go somewhere, But if it doesn't give the wrong message, then we can say it's fascinating, and that it's productive, it's interesting, it's sincere, and so therefore, how to say, they make it interesting, They see the quality. One, they see that if it is about creating more emotions, then they can see that it's not so interesting, You can, but all it does is just, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's about it, But whereas the other side, where it is not creating more confusion, then it's very interesting. And so therefore, that's how they focus, and then that's how they gain their interest, that's how they gain their motivation, that's how they gain their, what we say in everyday, energy. And so therefore, now for that sake, then the feeling is not literally saying you have to give up your limbs and your pension and salary and everything, not in that sense. It's like just an example. It's like a hobby, similar to a hobby. Basically, if you really enjoy doing something, then you never feel that it's a chore. You never feel that it's a duty, You never feel that it's for the state. It's for it's for the club. It's for the lineage, Probably that's the most appropriate one. It's never ever for the lineage. Yeah. What will the lineage gain? Nothing. Lineage never needed anything at all. Yeah. In the very first place, and it will never ever need anything at all in the future. At all. It's just, if there is anything, it's just for ourselves. Yeah. We put a lot of effort. We have a nice hall. That's it. It's not for the lineage. Yeah. is for ourselves. We have a somewhat okay acoustic because we acquired a bit of better quality sound box and some carpets. I think that's what's reducing the echo. And the tankas, which looks nice aesthetically, but actually it's more for to reduce the echo. It's like that. It's never for the lineage, you know. the lineage never needed tankas or anything. Yeah. So therefore, it's not literally about giving up something. Yes, there are stories, beautiful stories, moving stories, impressive stories, inspiring stories. I mean, if you read the Jataka tales on one side, and if you open YouTube channel about amazing animals, you know, then we feel that it's a proof, you know. But no, whether they are true, whether they are historical things or not, or fiction, or just tales, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But what he can imply, you know, through the Jataka tales, what he can imply is what we can experience. Yes, that when we are completely captured by something that we are fully devoted in, you know, how to say, I think there are just one or two classical examples, and there are no better examples often that of. And from them all, probably the best is that of a very loving mother's sort of relation to their only child, let's say, you know. Probably that's the best, yeah. Loving mother, that's it, okay? Not just mother with an only child, you know. And so therefore, that's just an example. That's not a way to imply anything, of course. But there are many cases, and we have seen it, we have witnessed, maybe you are one of them, you know. We never really hear about loving fathers. And so therefore, in this case, yeah, loving mothers to their only child. Now, the way they relate to them is very, how to say, very captivating, yes. So they are living stories, they are just plain stories from all angles. Then we can see that it's not exactly a hobby for them, you know, to care. Yet at the same time, it's not just a fantasy because obviously they have duty, they have responsibility for survival, for future, for all aspects. And yet, with all those visible and non-visible conditions, how much they can care. And so, now, someone in that state then can almost let go of limbs and life, you know. Yeah. It's as good as that, yeah. I mean, we have seen it, yes, and there are cases where they say, please take my baby, you know, and just save them. Because they know that their fate is it, you know. And that we can see it even now, yeah. So, yes, so it's not just a story, yeah. And so we don't have to now say, you know, fight for the Jataka tales that they are real. We don't have to. Yeah. We just use the best of it, which is that it implies the reality, you know. And so yes, in this case, it is possible that if you're genuinely interested, which is basically, maybe it's another term for love, I don't know. But then love is like the term religion has a very bad reputation, yes? So both has very bad reputation. So therefore, in this case, if you say genuine interest, then maybe it's more fresh, I don't know. So, but basically it's that, yeah. When you are that, it's not that you are putting up a front to look good for others or for yourself or for this life or for your health or for your next life, nothing. In that moment, nothing matters. That you would do anything and everything just so that this thing will survive, live and thrive, I don't know, maybe they're not even thinking about that. All in all, they're just thinking, I just wish they will not be in pain or not go hungry. So, yeah, it's that kind of interest, very genuine interest, where you don't care about your reputation, you don't care about your life, your limbs, anything. So therefore, if starting from animals all the way to human beings, if they can do it, why can't I, Whereas if you say that, this is too big for me, I'm not that heroic, so in this case, basically saying that that's just a way to excuse to develop jelly leg. Yes, so then according to the Jataka tales, then the very Buddha Shakyamuni, according to the Jataka tales, then through the 500, let's say, well, basically all the stories, and many times when he was born even as animals, even there, then he went through all sorts of difficult times and didn't bother, and especially when he had those during his human rebirths, then also he went through many challenging times, and yet that effort was never lost. Why? Because that interest was there. Finally he could see things. Finally he could see everything with his eyes open. That's the kind of saying, yes. And so therefore, for him, he just knew that he was just changing passports, but otherwise the mindset was clear, yeah. So birds, insect, humans, you can just have a very vivid imagination, yeah. You can just have an animation of just cells and, from there to, jellyfish, and then to Komodo dragons, lizards, Komodo dragons, and monkeys, and you can have all that. But all in all, doing the same thing. Yeah. Whereas then, by giving into the, it sounds like saying giving into pleasure, which sounds too common, and so therefore basically it's like saying giving into breaks, yeah, instead of saying giving into pleasures, Giving into breaks. That 5-minute break, is what it's saying is it's the most destructive thing, yeah. Because you know that you are on your way to do something that you really want, that you really like, that's going to really benefit. I don't know, it can be a position, a promotion, it can be salary, I don't know, anything, recognition. And so therefore, in between there are so-called breaks, yes. Nowadays probably they are mandatory breaks, mandatory naps, and so on, for the sake of health and mental health. Health. And so therefore, in this case, it's like saying, yes, those 5-minute breaks feels really pleasurable, that it feels that it gave me a breather, it re-energized me, and so on. And so in this case, the samsaric or the other saying, no, probably that's not the way to put it. But we every day deem it as cool, how to say, I don't know, maybe starting from being able to have the freedom to swear, We all know we all swear, yes? Sleep, maybe in this case, is not so powerful, but swearing, yes, we all do, Curse, swear, and Tibetans curse a lot too, yes. I remember, particularly back home, people used to curse every day. It was part of every sentence. So, if there was something called censorship, it was beep, beep, beep all the way, all the way, yes. And so, therefore, basically, to allow yourself to feel that I'm just letting off some steam, basically, either by cursing verbally, or maybe I'm saying hello, but maybe mentally I'm I'm cursing, you again, yes. So like that, simple things, simple pleasures, breaks, or letting off steam, like that. It's not saying you shouldn't, It's just we need to see it for ourselves, observe, And so like that, those are just very simple, humorous examples, yeah? So like that, there could be many things, many habits, many activities, many actions that we think it's harmless, it's just for now, it's just today, So like that. So by giving into those, then what happens is that it basically leads to all of these unfavorable conditions, confusions, or we say dukkha, or pain. And then, for some strange reason, when you let one of those habits manifest, then somehow it attracts more other, more similar ones, basically adding more color, adding more texture, basically. Because you cannot just swear all day, you know. It's not meaningful to you, it's not meaningful to others. And so therefore then you need to be creative in terms of, you know, how you swear. Yeah, okay. So, like that, you know. Then, because you want something fresh, yes. And so therefore then, according to the trend, that the way we curse also updates itself, you know. What is supposed to be a curse some, I don't know, decades or centuries ago, by now, if you listen to it, it sounds like Shakespeare, you know. But those days, my goodness, it was pure slander, you know. Yeah. So, yes. So like that, it updates, it attracts, it begets, to a point where just basic swearing is not enough. It's too common, too ordinary. And so therefore you need a stronger dose, and so therefore in order to intrigue the mind, you know, meaning in terms of that 5-minute break of pleasure, let's say, you could get bigger and bigger to a point where one needs everything, you know. One needs to spice up by having a few shakes of 10 non-virtues to create spice. And then, but of course, not indulge all the way, but just enough so that will it, won't it, close shave, all that, so that then one feels that one is alive, and what we call that often as adrenaline, yeah? Basically, it's constantly thinking, what's next, what's next? And so as a result, then it leads to basically opening the door to all forms of confusion, yeah. On a mental level, most importantly, then on a verbal level, that to a point where there is no trust at all. Because it was not enough just to have a few white lies, because that got boring. So therefore now one needed to lie a little bit, add a little bit of black so that it becomes gray, and then add more sort of darker tone of lies so that it becomes more interesting, you know. That to a point where it becomes very heavy. So therefore, in short, I have no room for trust at all, you know. And then on a physical level, then, I mean, we can abuse the physical body to a point where it's unhealthy. It attracts all sorts of, you know, illnesses and so on, yes. So yeah. So, therefore, now this is something that we have done over and over again. Whereas in the case of bearing, yes, I suppose that's the word, bearing a little bit in terms of, because of course, if there is genuine interest in the virtues that we do, in endeavors such as, I don't know, helping others or things like that, if there's genuine interest, then maybe this is not an issue. But nevertheless, if you are beginning, yes, the habit is still very strong, that we can feel tired, we can feel that, am I really ready for this? I'm just an amateur. And, you know, like in the previous verses, sort of merge that idea and the idea of that low ego, It's known as low ego, lower ego, something like that. Where to feel that being modest, being humble is, respected by society and revered even from a spiritual perspective. And so therefore I'm so, I don't know, then merge that feeling of, I don't think I can do this, with that. And then feel a sense of progress, I think I have reached somewhere. Why? Because I tend to express humility a lot, like that. And so in this case, what Shantideva is saying is that this is not the place. Whereas instead, the ability to bear, meaning not really contradicting genuine interest, but nevertheless to bear some sort of minor incidents, to some annoying aspects of the circumstances, to just bear that, because it's only momentary. But by the next hour or next minute, it's gone, simply gone, And so there's nothing but a memory of it. And now we know how memory works, and so therefore it's also, memory is not somehow having few residual parts of the past stuck to it, It's nothing like that. And so therefore there is no reason to feel that I cannot bear this. Whereas in the case of the Shakyamuni Buddha or individuals of that kind, they have seen the truth, they have seen the facts, they have experienced, they have observed, they have seen, they have developed knowledge, and so therefore they are able to bear from the smallest to the greatest obstacles. And so therefore now these advices are like that of a therapy or a medication that has been perfected, one could say. Maybe that's not the right word, but carefully put together in such a state where there is hardly any room for errors, actually, It is so fine, not perfect, but very fine. But very fine that it can accommodate basically any of our situations. And so when such method, application is there, yes, yes, he has put together such medication therapy. And because of these experiences, their knowledge, then to them, in short, how to say, now in here maybe now we cannot not exactly use the word habit, because maybe habit or tendency is probably not so elevating in some ways. Maybe it's a little bit ordinary, but in short, if you're fluent, the more experience you gain, the more observation you have, the more fluent you become. And so, as a result, you become very agile, you become very able, flexible. And so then, now to their cases, there are cases, according to the story at least, that then when it comes to giving up anything, it's not really a sacrifice, in the English translation, maybe it would be translated as sacrifice. It's not really a sacrifice. It's like saying giving away kidney, maybe. That's more relatable, Or giving away blood, or giving away bone marrow, things like that. Maybe that's more relatable, yeah? Not so dramatic. But I don't know. I mean, those days, the medical knowledge was probably far superior than what we have now. But those days, it is said, okay, so we don't have to really believe, but said that there were such cases where there were, let's say, physicians or surgeons who could actually attach new limbs or new organs and possibly new head. I mean, in short, new brain or something like that. Yeah. And so probably that's. I mean, I'm just trying to make it more realistic as possible. And so probably that's what makes, maybe it might make it a little bit more sensible to say when somebody asks, I mean, the Jataka tale, somebody asks, can I have your head? You know, and the Bodhisattva says, yes, you may have. And so maybe it's just very sinister, you know, just saying, you know, very politely, please die, you know. It's as simple as that. And he says, yes, of course. But it is possible that I think those days, yeah, there were such cases. Yeah. I read here, there, yeah, or heard here, there. But nothing but literature, of course. And so therefore, yes, limbs being given and so on. But of course, now those are still, sounds very civilized, yeah? But then in the case of, I'm sure many of you must have visited in Nepal, 𝐊𝐈𝐁𝐈 Namo Buddha. Basically in Nepal, where you know where the tigress offered, someone basically fed the tigress and her cubs by bleeding oneself or offering one's body. So like that, you know, it's possible. And then one of the Jataka tales is about a rishi or a meditator who was at the demand of the lord or the king, then gave up his limbs, and he was the king was finally, of course, transformed or moved by that meditator and became his student. Why? Because this meditator was not showing any sign of pain or any slight sign of pain, as each of the limbs were, you know, removed, amputated. And so now in here what it's saying is that when the mind gets, one could say, conditioned or becomes fluent, or when the mind is focused or is aware, basically, very coherently aware, it's not that it becomes numb, you know, with too much information, because too many plugs are there to the brain, and so therefore there's no real feeling for the organs and the body, you know, not in that sense. Yeah, but instead it's more like one can experience every how to say, slight difference of temperature, you know, but to a point where way finer than ours. But at the same time, it's not, how to say, the sensation is there, the faculties are intact, yet at the same time it's not interrupted by emotions in a way. And so therefore it's clear, it's bright, it's vivid, it's lucid, as one can ever be. Yet at the same time, there is no fear, main thing, yes. When I say no emotion, first and foremost, there is no fear. There is no regret. There is also no expectation, you know. So, I mean, we don't really have to go too far into this, but I'm just saying this because I could just skip this part, but maybe, who knows, maybe it's inspiring. Yeah. And so to them, then I believe the sensation is something like very pleasant. Yeah. The amputation is very pleasant. Yes. And so therefore now, since we have a slight advantage, or in this case a great advantage, where we can almost call ourselves like a junior Bodhisattva, or learned ones, or wise ones. And then, since, you know, we haven't come to that part, you know, fortunately. We haven't come to that part. So if you have to let go of something, give away something, you know, starting from the very first paramita, if you have to be diligent on something, if you have to be a little bit more disciplined on something, basically by saying, using all these analogies, stories, commentaries, compositions, logics, from all front, it only makes sense that basically we can afford to bear a little bit, because it's not going to last forever. It's just momentary. And on top of it, if we are a little bit, you know, to be very honest, let's say, if we are really honest with ourselves, maybe we are a little bit reward-oriented. So if that's the case, yes, the reward is such, you know, according to that language, then the reward is such that better human rebirth, pure lands, perfect Buddhahood, all of that, you know, all of that is there. Longevity, health, all of it, you know. And so therefore, yes, such rewards are there. Oh yes. The meditations for J.J. is at 6 p.m., right? It's at 5 p.m. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry? Different time zone, yes. Sorry for that. Okay, so then I suppose all of those are quite clear, right? It's not that complicated. I mean, the real questions would come actually during your other sessions, you know. Yes, so that's it. Yeah. Okay, very good. Then now we focus on the 𝐿 meditation, and yes, this is where we do, or where we let it happen, or we allow it to happen. And so we don't have to think, we don't really have to listen. I mean, we let our ears do the work, you know, see, we are doing, you know, we are letting our ear do something. Yeah. So basically it's saying doing, or meditation, in short, is that it's like, you know, the contemplation and listening is more like it's like saying, you heard for the first time that the heart beats, you know, and you never knew till now. And so you were very interested. And so therefore now, why does it beat, and why doesn't it beat like this or like that? That aspect is something like contemplation. Whereas the meditation is more like saying, finally, now that you have cleared all doubts, now you know why it beats, and now you also know that the heart beats. Now finally you focus on the heart beating, and you let the heart just beat. Yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that. So 𝐿𝐴 meditation means that during listening and contemplation, we can question what is 𝐿𝐴, why is 𝐿𝐴, how come like this, how come he has 4 arms, why not 5, or why not 3, why is he so pale, why is head so big, why does he look like a cartoon, is he real, is he for real? All sorts of questions we can raise, no problem, we clear all doubts. But then once we do it, and once we do the meditation of 𝐿𝐴, we just like letting the heart beat, same thing, we let the, I suppose, yes, here the slight addition is that if you have meditated, gone through the program for some time, we kind of know how the visualization goes, how the recitation goes, how the melody is. So we have a little bit, a bit of additional part, But if you have done it for some time, we are just basically letting that happen, letting that take place. It's like saying, initially you have to learn how to drive or cycle a bike. After some time, you don't have to think, yes? Or the best one, walking, yes? Initially, you have to learn how to walk. Yeah. I remember when I was trying to take my first steps, I used the bed very often, like a cane, Then after a few attempts, then it gets easier and easier, that to a point where I feel like, I can do it. Now that when I'm walking, I'm not thinking about walking at all. I'm just letting it do its own thing. It's the same thing, So, yeah. So, you're just letting the recitation of the sadhana, the visualization of the sadhana do its own thing. And so you don't doubt or fear, or, of course, it goes without saying, you do not try to think of anything else.
dere go che be la ma la jön do zolo wa de be go chen la che me ge de wa rai chen je lo ye me go je ngo shire son ba shi ka jara do be ngo wo so ma de ma je de gara jo be gom chen la gom ja lo da da la wa chen je lo nan da ngo wa che gra son ba shi ya ma ye che ya chara wa la ma ga ro lo para chara ve gom che la korai de yere me do barai chen je lo ke wai gun de yang dai lai ma da lai me che je ba lai sai dai lam je yan de rai zo ne do rai je chan je go ba nya rai dai jo san je che dai zo je chan ai lai san je pa rai dai da ne kya zo che da je gom de je be se nan je do lai ben je re san je do pa ra sho san je che da zo je cha nai la san je pa ra da je gom de je be se nan je do lai ben je san je do pa ra sho san je che da zo je cha nai la san je pa ra dai da ne ja zo je da je gom de je be se nan je do lai ben je re san je do pa ra jo da zo ka jo sen je che zo be ka ra da ve de she le ba jo che re ze ka ra za la ve ze re ngo de jo ze zo do je chen je se cha je dam bo ta la ja ra ze o ne je je be ka ra na ta ra do ren je re da ba be de yo so lo o ba me be o jen jen shan ne da ra je je do sho chen men da kyam ne gun do wo wo ra je ra cho wa jen je ma ge gun do kar zo zo je je wo la jen do je jen je do la se jen re ze la cha za la cho wa jen je ma chen je jen, nan je jen zhe 𝐿𝐴 𝐂𝐨𝐮𝐫𝐬𝐞 추유 대화 제망가 런저 포메 도지 송주 대대 오제 체다 연관대 샤베 덴베 자시 솔로 잠발람 바워 메예 솔로존 펜골로의 밤에 제라 잘라줘 바상제 덴베 다보 탐제 초저 마베 네마 솔로와이 데덴 도로제 데베 최제 사브제 초조 체베 고젠 Dayan dolajai jazoi gwenye do meje dor nyingbo da de jo ye wan son jo lenje jebe wagan debe ngoboro zombe to chabda dangbo gwenda yeremem Kengoro korolo gwendo galajara sho gweza indeje pema benza ye namba robe jalabe chesuj larje drove suje jenjoro bashab sede pardo Tembara sho balde lame jabe demban da kanyam yong lai deje jongwad daje male choza jebjan nerdo zanje salai ge barai jo yema hoi nganzara zanje nawa Daye daye zoi jo boi doje chen boi dang yen do chen boi doje do na la san je jang zen ba me koro je koro de je wa za pa doi me ba ye de wa chen je ja ve shen gan de Da shen de ne tsebe dai je bai shen je paramai che ba ro de rai je ne nan de ja dai joi de je dai je me lai da ba de cho jo zon je zon zen dam je me zhe ba sen je la de solo de ya da ben za de ya a ba da na ye so hai cho de ja la wa se je go zo ni zo lo je ye ra da je de zo je zo ba quan cho son lai che ba bo lo Dalave den bai pe jira je wa sem je gwe la ngo droga son je do jira je zai tam je che de da shen je lai men jira je ne da ne so zo de Chere ne me nyang do ebe ce de sa je ne nyoro je na je ze be jere ma da de wa chen do je jero je je ne be ma ka je de le de la san je jo Chang zhou do ne je zen do zhe wei zhou zhen bo roi zhou zhou nan de ye tam che se ba ne do ne ne be zha nan pam che de Ke ga nai che ba lai troi ba ye se be chole doloi wara joy 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 se ne